It's been a little rough the last couple of days. We had a not to bring down the show before we start on the new year, but I had a coworker die on us suddenly. Somebody I was very close to. The day before that, I found out my 91-year-old grandmother is in the hospital. She hasn't been taking care of herself, so I went to go visit her today, and she was very upset that I had to leave to come home and record with the guys. So she made me take a picture of her giving them the double bird. And Alex,
no, if she's given the double bird, she clearly has listened to our podcast before, and she's like, "Look, the quality of this is this. It's 2."
No, she wanted to know Alex. Let Alex know he was number 1 in her book.
Well, who's the other number 1?
That would be Yield.
You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts Tricky Nick, Alex, I Yield to Nolan, Sid, and Ender Phoenix.
Welcome, everybody, to this Trophy Wars episode 655. I will be your host again tonight, Matt. And for those of you watching live, you get the benefit of seeing Narga's 2 front feet just kind of sticking up off frame because he is comfortably napping on my chest right now. So, with Tricky here, please explain how cats are the devil.
They are the devil. They're mean. They like to knock things off. They like to bite you for no reason. And then when you're petting them being all nice, they decide to bite you out of nowhere.
I didn't know that watching Tricky podcast would be like playing Shadow of the Colossus and looking up at the boss from the ground.
For those of you watching live or maybe catching the VOD, you'll see that there is a new perspective on Tricky. And it is one from a profile sitting about 30 degrees down from his wonderful beard.
Yes.
Tricky, this view is lousy. What are you doing?
Well, I'm trying new configurations because there's just no way. If I put the camera up here, you guys would just see my forehead, which is like a 5 head at this point. So I just tried a different angle. I definitely got to change it because I don't like the way the screen's working. If I do it the normal way, the normal green screen, it's like all faded up here and stuff. So
apparently, one of Tricky's New Year's resolutions was to appear taller. So he's doing that through the camera angle.
You know what? Damn it! I screwed up myself. I blame you, Matt.
It's fine. Not like it matters.
It does matter. This is my new intro for the year.
I just want to let everybody know before we get into this new year, new me bullshit. There's not going to be a new year, new me. I'm going to be the same loving asshole that you all come to know and love.
Wonderful.
Just putting it out there.
You heard him. We love him. Alex is here. Alex, do you see this? Do you see that cats are not the devil?
Well, we have 2 cats in this house, and so that's, we clearly understand, Matt, in this household that we love cats. Don't get me wrong. Cleaning up after cats can be kind of a part-time job in itself, but even despite all the barfing, the hairballs, and the litter, I still don't think cats are the devil. Tricky, honestly, I think cats just kind of see people's character really well. So when they're biting and scratching Tricky, it's probably just a sign that he's a real big dickbag. And the cats know that.
Oh, wait, you call me a dickbag?
I'm thinking he's saying the cats think you're a dickbag.
Also me. But
Okay.
I'm with the cats.
For the record, I saved this cat's life by jumping out on a speeding highway to pick it up. This cat better be damn grateful that I was there. That's all I'm saying.
Cat's also grateful that you smack your microphone.
That wasn't me.
That was me. I'm trying to give the viewers a clearer picture of Narga, who's sleeping peacefully.
I thought it was tricky because it was perfectly timed that I heard the sound and then he immediately grabbed his microphone.
No, but see, this is what I mean by it's evil. Narg is laying there all peacefully nice. That's a good thing. But then when Narg decides, I don't want to be here no more, and for whatever reason, Matt's in the way, Narg is going to bite his arm.
No, he won't. He'll just move peacefully off it. But I'm going to stop the conversation right here because we are going to yield the conversation over to Yield.
That was a
What's
bad
up,
segue.
everybody?
That was a bad segue.
Was it?
Yeah.
Better than anything you came up with.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I can't steal tricky segues for you guys. I have to come up with my own.
Well, that's a good thing.
Nobody asked you.
I'm asking you. Yield, what do you think of my segues?
I thought that was a good one.
You know, if I would have done that, you'd be like, oh, that's so bad.
I don't know. You didn't do it, so we won't know.
Anyways, on this, what is soon to be a very snowy East Coast storm day tomorrow and possibly Tuesday, it is the first night of, if you're listening to this on the podcast, it'll be the third night. This is the first night of Awesome Games Done Quick 2025, benefiting the Prevent Cancer Foundation. So if you're not watching us, I say tune into Games Done Quick on Twitch and see some awesome, fun, quick speedruns throughout the week. Other than that, how are you all doing?
I'm doing good. Yo, did you see the picture my grandma wanted me to send you guys?
Yes.
Black Chaos, welcome to the show. We'll call it a shit show for tonight, but you get the benefit of seeing Narga sleeping peacefully in my lap, proving Tricky's theory that cats are the devil incorrect.
And Chaos gets to join in on the fun real quick.
Which means it is the time for the return of the music game.
Yes, Alex, get your pen and paper ready. As he's checking
Well, I
his
got a piece
fantasy,
of paper here. I got paper here.
as he's checking his fantasy basketball, and he's been yelled at
I'm
by
not
both
checking my fantasy basketball. I'm looking at Bills.
Bills. While you're on the show,
Yeah.
are they the Buffalo Bills?
Hell no. I ain't rooting for nobody in New York.
Really?
Last time I rooted for New York, it was the Knicks when Larry Johnson played there, or when Walter McCarty played for the Knicks. Otherwise, I ain't rooting for nothing in New York. Well, I'll root for Matt.
All right.
Go,
So just to recap
Go
on the
Ninja,
scores.
go Ninja, go Matt.
Just to recap on the scores, Alex is currently at 8, Yield is at 6, Matt is at 3.5, and Jeremy is at 3. I don't think we did it with anybody else, right? I didn't miss anybody else. We do it with Jeremy. We did it with Jeremy. Did we do it with Daryl?
No.
Daryl
but
was part of
before
the-
we continue,
Okay.
taking a momentary break, Black Chaos says that there's an echo when Tricky speaks. Yes, I'm hearing it too, Tricky.
I don't know what the hell's going on. Okay, sorry everybody. Still working out some technical difficulties. All right, back to the musical challenge. Here you go, guys. I made this one easy for you guys. I figured, new year, I'll try to make it easy for you. Know this.
Yeah, I know this.
What do you got?
Free falling.
Matt got it right. Alex, I can't see it because you're too far away. Tom Petty free falling. All right, you all got a point. Did I make it too easy?
No.
No, because it still took me a bit.
Yield, I know you got it right away, right?
Oh yeah.
What about you, Alex?
It took me all of 5 seconds before I recognized it. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you hear it and you initially recognize it, but you got to go through the register in your mind, and then yeah, I got it pretty quickly.
All right. All right, back to the difficulty next week.
Wouldn't have it any other way. So, with that, we're going to move on to what we've been playing. And Tricky, I'm going to start off with you this week.
No trophy counts?
No. Okay, trophy counts.
Yeah,
Tricky, what are your trophies?
You threw me off for a second. I'm like, you said no. I'm like, wow.
Good. In the Grinelli takeover, you never know what's going to come next.
Apparently. What have I been playing? I've been playing some Horizon and a little bit of Division 2. That's it. Trophy count. I am level 960 total trophies of 34,010 with 980 platinums. And after we do the trophy counts, I do have an update on the rarity contest because I'm going to do this every week since the three of us are in Division 1 now.
Well, that sounds good.
He wants to gloat because he's up front for right now.
That's usually how that works.
That's exactly how that works.
Alex, what are your trophies?
I am level 516, total trophy count of 10,424, and a platinum count of 186 in 185 games.
Yield?
Oh, where'd my mouse go? There it is. 523 with a trophy count of 10792 and a platinum count of 205.
And I am still level 221 with 1,328 trophies and 0 platinums. Did I earn anything recently? Yes, unlocked 4 shop expansions. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. Sid is level 120 with trophy counts of 340 with 4 platinums. I don't know, has he just not been playing anything, or is that just not updated?
He probably has been taking some time off.
Okay. Very good. Mark is back on stream for you all. As we go back into what we've been playing. Tricky, is that all you've been playing, or you want to expand on it?
That's all I've been playing.
Okay. Alex, how about you?
Played a little bit of Rocket League this week, played a little bit of Helldivers. Yeah, just the live service games you used to hearing me spew about. But really the main culprit, the main suck of my time in the new year, I hinted at it heavily at the end of last show, maybe even straight out said it. Sly Cooper 3, Honor Among Thieves. Of course, I just got the Platinum Trophy in Sly 2, Sly being one of my favorite series, so I had to start the new year with Sly 3. And as much as I like Sly 3, I'm on the side of the fence that thinks Sly 2 is just a better game. Sly 3 does make some improvements. It kind of improves the gameplay a lot, but I think it definitely loses stuff, and a lot more than it really should between the two games. I hinted at it, or I said it in the last show in my long rant about Sly 2, which Tricky made fun of me for, even though apparently you all like to hear us talk about video games. Tricky likes to make fun of how much I actually talk.
I did not make fun of you. I just said you get very long-winded. That's all I said.
Well, I'm trying to give as much information to the listeners as I can, my thoughts, my pure thoughts. So, Sly 3 is when, like, I feel like the boss fights in the series get more intricate. They get kind of, like, multi-leveled, and they're just kind of better overall than what we've seen before. That said, Sly 3, some interesting locations as well, going to Venice, going to Holland, going to a lot of cool different places, going to the Australian outback. So, I mean, again, with locations, I think Sucker Punch really knocked it out, but one of the things that kind of kills the game, not kills the game, but just is the reason I like Sly 2 better, is that you play as a lot more characters. They add 4 characters to your group. So you're playing as 4 more characters, which cuts into the time that you're playing as Sly, Murray, and Bentley. And really, the new characters being Penelope and Dimitri, the Panda King, and the Guru, they're not as fun to play as Sly, Murray, and Bentley. Really, they're not as fun to play as Sly and Murray, because those are the two most fun to play at. So the fact that you take away time from them to play as these other characters, I think it's a step back. I think that focusing on Sly, Murray, and Bentley, the gang, in 2 made that game a much stronger. I also feel like the villains, because again, this time they're not connected. What you're doing in each episode is you're trying to recruit a member to your team to, instead of taking down a bad guy, really, the main focus is to recruit a member of your team to pull off an ultimate job in the last chapter of Sly 3. And so, story-wise, it makes sense. It's just, now the villains aren't really connected. They don't know each other. They're not in a giant crime syndicate like the Fiendish Five or the Claw Gang. So, quite frankly, that's not as strong a group of villains. And so I think that's another hit the game takes. And also just a few things they tried to improve on, like, one of the big improvements for the game is that in Sly 2, they introduced pickpocketing, where Sly could pickpocket the enemies, the guards, which, makes you feel like more of a thief. In this game, though, they added that Murray and Bentley could also do it, which is a nice touch. I love that. However, some of the other things, they take away the clue bottles, which were one of the main collectibles in Sly 1 and 2. It's not the end of the world, but again, I feel like the clue bottles make you explore the world, like each little chapter, more thoroughly. And so since you don't have to do that, I don't think you see every corner of a map, which, considering the detail that they put in these little sandboxes, I think it's better. It behooves you to actually have to collect the clue bottles. They also introduced these relics in Sly, like 3 relics or treasures hidden in each chapter that you could basically take back to the safe house if you could get them back safely, and you could sell them on ThiefNet for money, for large chunks of cash, to buy new moves and upgrades. Those are also gone, which I think is a downgrade. So 2 things that were in Sly 2 collectibles that they really took out of Sly 3, and they added the Master Thief challenges back in Sly 3. Those weren't in Sly 2. They were originally in Sly 1, and they were like speed runs of each level, which definitely kind of sucked. This time around, they're not as bad, but they're like, basically it's like, hey, you've already done this mission or this section of a mission, now do it under time constraints. And it's just really not fun. I hate the Master Thief challenges. I would rather have just the collectibles, which allow me to explore the different areas. That's a lot more fun. But in general, overall, despite anything negative I have to say about the game, there's small quibbles. I do feel like Sly 3 it refines the gameplay, and although I don't think the story and the villains are as strong as they were in Sly 2, I still think overall the gameplay is so fun, and like each area is so much fun to explore that it's kind of, you could make an argument for Sly 3 being better than Sly 2. I just feel, for me, in my gameplay experience, I just think Sly 2 is the best game in the series, the peak for the series. So yeah, I'm hoping the games continue to do well, because I do feel like the more engagement they get on the PlayStation Network now, the better chance we'll see a Sly 5, and I would love to see Sly get out of Egypt, personally. So yeah, I'm enjoying my time with Sly 3, but I'd be interested if there's anyone in our community who's played all the Sly games, what they think, what's their favorite Sly game. Matt, have you played any of the Slys?
I think I've tried starting the first one on my Steam Deck, and it's unfortunate that it's a habit that I have of starting a game, liking the intro, and then dropping off because something else new and shiny comes out. That's not to say I wouldn't enjoy them from what you've talked about. From what I played a little bit, I'd enjoy it. I just need to sit down and focus to actually continue on playing it.
Yeah, and perhaps one of the things that Sly 3 does the best is it gives you an ending that, if they had ended the series there, if Sucker Punch had said, we're dropping this and no one else is ever making a Sly game, it would have been a great ending for the series. Kind of like Uncharted 3. It was like a perfect ending. Of course, we got Sly 4, which overall, I like Sly 4. I know that's not necessarily I guess it's a split opinion between the series, because there's a lot of people who like it, a lot of people who don't. But that's a discussion for another time. But Yield, I know that you've played the Sly games, and do you have a favorite Sly game?
It's been a while since I've played them, so I don't really remember which one was my favorite over the other. I just enjoyed all 4 games as a series.
Okay. And then, I don't know if Tricky's back yet. He had to step away. But one of the other changes they made in this game, and this is a very small quibble, so this isn't really a negative. It's just something that I prefer. So in the second game, when you pickpocketed the guards, at the end, like after you pulled all the coins out, there sometimes would be a glowing piece of loot that you could pull out of there, and then go to ThiefNet back to your hideout, and you could sell it on the computer. This time around, they once you get that piece of loot from the pocket, it immediately goes into your inventory, your coin inventory. So it basically sells automatically. You don't have to go back to the computer and the hideout. And while it seems nice, like a quality of life change, you had to go back to the computer anyway to buy the power ups to spin the coins. So I kind of like going back and going to the computer and actually pressing the button to sell the item on ThiefNet. Maybe that's just me, but having it automatically added to your coin account was just kind of like, that's a change. I mean, it's not bad, it's not great, but from my personal experience, I actually like going to the computer and selling them manually, but that's just me. Tricky, you back?
Yep, Sly 4 is the best.
You think Sly 4 is the best?
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, I will say, and again, I think people's issues with Sly are story-based. Sly 4 is story-based, but gameplay-wise and boss fight-wise, Sly 4 is the best. I don't agree, Tricky.
Wait, hold on. You just said Sly 4 is the best. Did you misspeak?
No, I said that I think people have a lot of issues with the story, cliffhanger ending, one of the villain turns for one of the characters in the game, and just how some of the Sly's ancestors, which you finally get to play as in Sly 4, which is a nice touch, but some of them aren't handled as well as I think people would like. But yeah, story-wise, people have a lot of complaints about Sly 4, but gameplay-wise, it's rock solid. And it may be, in terms of gameplay and boss fights, may be the best Sly, mechanically, I think. But I think story and everything else considered, Sly 2 and Sly 3 are better than Sly 4, but I do like Sly 4. Sly 4 gets a lot of hate. I like it, though. I liked it when I played, and I would, at some point, like to replay it.
Sly 4 was so good, you played it twice.
Well, inadvertently, but... yeah, but that's all I'm playing. And just enjoying Sly 3 and crossing my fingers for Sly 5. We need another one.
All right, before Yield goes, I just want to give a rarity update. But before we do that, Videodrome 80 just came in. Welcome. Hopefully you're not a bot that's about to be banned. So in Division 1, we're not going to talk about Division 2, even though Doc Chicken 13, who's a newcomer to the contest, absolutely killed it this week with 92 points. Redbeard Rick is in the lead with 120. Hey, Sean. And right now, Yield, out of the three of us, is in the lead with 27 points. Congratulations, Yield. Alex is 2 spots behind him with 22 points, only 5 points behind.
How do people have this many points already? This is the rarity competition, right?
Because they all waited, and the contest actually started earlier. We thought it was going to start at like 3 o'clock Eastern time. Garrett started it early, so everybody started. And Rick, I think, got 2 platinums right off the rip, including the one from Arkham Knight and something else.
He must have been sitting on those. Or maybe he just played. Maybe he played them up until a certain, like, he had finished so much in last year, and he just decided that he was going to finish them up. This year.
He said he was waiting for it. And I am 6 points behind Alex right now with 16 points. I'm in 13th spot. Alex is in 10th, and Yield is in 8th.
Weren't you saving some trophies for this specifically?
Yeah, I just well, I wasn't going to get too much into it on the show, but this last week has been rather hectic. Like I said, I lost a coworker on New Year's Day. New Year's Eve, I found out my grandmother was sick and in the hospital, so my attention has been diverted. And then my stepfather, who also works sanitation as well, he lost a coworker, so it's just been a little rough. So I will be getting back to gaming, but it's just, I had other priorities this last week. So that, and I'm not making excuses, but yeah. So we all had a good show in the first week. Very proud of us. I'm sorry for interrupting, but Yield, what are you playing, sir?
Thanks, Matt. I've been playing some Star Wars Outlaws. I played, we tried to play some you can still play Squadrons, but we tried to work on fleet battles. But to do that, you have to do it You can't do a custom battle. You have to do it online, and you need 5 people to do it online. Otherwise, you just stay in search forever. You can't do it with 2, and then they backfill it with computer people. So that was kind of a bummer because we were looking forward to doing that as a co-op game. We still might. There was enough people in the community who have it, so we might try to work on it that way. And then, Homer and I started playing Battlefront 2, and we spent a good part of the weekend playing Battlefront 2 through mainly the co-op battles, which was fun. And then I've also started playing some of the deep diving adventures. Played some Rocket League with Alex, and played a little bit of Helldivers 2. And that's it for me.
Did you make any progress in Outlaws?
I think I'm about to the point where I'm going to head to go after the next, the droidsmith, the next person on the crew. I started getting everybody to max reputation, just so that way I could get all of their presents, I guess you could say, deliveries. And so I've almost got, I think I got one more job for the huts to do, and I got a couple for the pikes, and then I'll have them all maxed out, and then after that it's just going to be, I'm just going to do whatever.
Yeah, so, I'm still putzing around on Tatooine, and I got the option for the gunslinger where I can start getting the skills associated with that person. So it's slow going for me, mainly because I find other things that I end up playing. But I managed to get past the one spot where the stormtrooper kept interrupting me as I was slicing a terminal. So good for me on that one.
Yes, good for you. I'm still waiting to get the fusion cutter. That's what I'm waiting to get. I've got some stuff behind locked doors that I need a fusion cutter to get.
Yeah, that was a little rough trying to figure that out. I remember that.
How late game is that, Tricky?
Say again?
How late game is that?
Not at all. It's it's very early in the game, but it's something very particular you have to do to get it.
Well, I haven't been able to find to get it, so
I would recommend doing a Google search.
So if that's what all you were playing, Yield, I'll go into what I've been playing, because I did a bunch of Star Wars Outlaws, and my problem is I was on Tatooine and I was going for a specific blaster part that is within an Imperial fort. And I went in and I cleared out the fort. I did not get seen once. I did not have any issues, but I couldn't find where this thing was. But I found the blaster part, but there was something else I'm supposed to do in the actual fort. So I left the fort thinking I had done what I needed to do. And once I realized it wasn't that, I went to try to go back to the fort, and everybody had repopulated the fort. I was like, well, that's bullshit. I am not going to try to clear all that out again right now. So I was fairly annoyed that all of that happened and it just didn't do what I was hopefully trying to do.
That's some like 8-bit nonsense, where you like leave the screen and then the enemy respawns when you come back to that screen when you move over.
And the particular hurtful thing is that there's an AT-ST walking around inside the fort that makes life a living hell, because it's like the one thing you can't take out.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I go, well,
really? It's never really given me a fit.
Oh, you just haven't been seen by it yet, then.
Oh no, I've made him mad. It's walked my direction, but I've either locked it out of the fort, which I've done it there, or the other one, I've just been at the other end of the fort, and it really can't get to me.
You locked it out the fort?
I locked it out the fort.
So you baited it outside and then locked the gate?
No, it was walking in and out on a patrol, and when it walked out, I hit the barrier and locked it out the fort.
I don't remember one of those ever being outside of a fort.
Yeah, the one on Tatooine, I think it's the northern fort. You go, because the first time you go there, to this one fort, there's no AT-AT. And you go in there and you make a noise and you do what you need to do. And then when you go back again, because there's obviously another mission or a quest that you need to do for the syndicates, then there's an ATST patrolling, either outside or it walks in and walks out. Well, the one that walked in and walked out, when it walked outside, I hit the button and locked it out.
I mean, that's smart.
The other one would walk into like a garage area. So when it walked into the garage area, I locked it in the garage so it couldn't get back out. And then I just walked outside and killed everybody.
See, that's weird because the ones I came across, they basically just stood in the same spot, just turned in different directions.
No, yeah. Mine kind of patrolled a small area.
I mean, once I pissed it off, it moved around. But as long as I wasn't moving, as long as I wasn't trying to piss it off, it just stayed in one spot and just did circles.
And I also like going in and hacking the turrets, and then having the turrets go off and start killing the stormtroopers.
Yes, I did do that.
Honestly, the best way to stay alive is, have you been to why am I drawing a blank? Kajimi?
No, I haven't gone there yet.
Oh, when you get there, it would be wise to invest in that gears or that planet's outfit.
Yes.
Okay.
Do either one of you guys have the DLC for it?
No.
Okay. It's worth playing it.
Is the Gambler's one worth playing? I'm kind of waiting for it to...
I heard it's short.
One, to find out if it was any good, and then two, I'll just wait for it to go on sale.
I define short because a lot of people were saying that the main game is short, so it depends on your definition of short. I would say it took me about 5-6 hours to go through.
Okay, maybe it's a little longer than what I heard before. I heard it was only like 2-3 hours.
I might have my timeline wrong, but because I'm just estimating, I didn't actually measure it out. But yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
Okay. Well, I have a bunch more in that game to do, so there'll be more report outs on me playing Star Wars Outlaws in the future.
I'm sorry, I missed it. Did you finish the game? No,
because I haven't even been to Akiva yet.
Okay, I'm sorry, Matt.
I'm kind of finishing up. I did I think it was a syndicate mission, and I had to go back to Shara, and then so I was there, and then I was kind of messing around there for a bit. And then I zipped over to Tatooine and did a Sabbat game with the sheriff. Then I went back to Shara to finish some stuff, and that's when I was kind of deciding I was going to get all the syndicates maxed out and get all their rewards before I just kind of decided I don't really have to I'm going to tick off this syndicate. Well, I don't really want to do that yet, Then I can kind of start making them mad as I go. So, but I think I'm to the point where I'm tired of chasing side stuff on the maps, and I'm going to work on the main story. So I'm about to go to Akiva.
Okay.
All right. I have also been playing, I did some co-op in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Splintered Fate. Again, just really, the game is good in the aspect of the voice acting's great, the action is great, the upgrade system can get a little janky. It's a little, you have to do a lot of runs to get the materials you need to upgrade. And unfortunately, that's where the voice acting falls flat, because unlike a game like Hades or Hades 2, there aren't a lot of recorded lines. So it gets a little repetitive. Now when I get to bosses, it's just like a real quick exchange, and that's it. There's no difference other than, maybe 3 or 4 runs in vocal speech patterns. So I'm a little upset with that because the voice acting that is in there is really good. Also did some time playing Battlefield 2042, teamed up with that. I tried all the different modes. For those of you who are not familiar with the series, the standard fare is Conquest, where it's 2 sides, you're going to control points, capturing it, moving on, and doing that generally back and forth for the entire match. They also have Rush mode, which is basically attack and defend, and one team has to push forward, capture points that the opposing side can't capture back until all the points have been captured. But I've been doing some really good things with the recon class in that, taking some long sniper shots. It's so satisfying when you see somebody, hundreds of yards away, parachuting in, and you're able to snipe them out of the air. I don't know how to describe it any other than that. Satisfying. Also played a horror game. It's called Chuxie, Chuxie. And what it is you're a spiritual medium that you exorcise ghosts with guns. Necessarily a gun. So maybe an American spirit medium. And you're shooting sanctified bullets. The interesting thing about the game is that it's an Unreal 5 engine game. So this looks hyper realistic. Like the ghosts and everything are like, there's some really cheesy ones, but I walk into a room and it's mannequins covered with drapes. And as you're walking through, the ghost jumps out from under one of the drapes, and it's just very realistic movement, not uncanny valley at all, and it just gets very spooky. So that was like some sort of reduced price game from the Steam sale I picked up. I saw some other podcasters playing it and it looked interesting, so I grabbed that. And I put some more time into Helldivers 2. I actually got enough super credits and I unlocked the chemical agents war bond because I'm looking to get that chemical flamethrower essentially.
Oh,
Figure
okay.
something a little different than using a flamethrower. Now I'll be spewing gas, which is no different than my normal life. I was actually watching a video. There were 4 Helldivers sitting up on a ridge, and they all launched their orbital napalms into like one area of the map, and they just did it one after the other. It was just about, a good minute and a half of napalming an entire area. It was a wonderful sight.
Sounds amazing.
The last thing I want to talk about, this is probably one of the most intricate levels I've gotten into in a simulator game. TCG Card Shop Simulator. You laugh, Tricky. You laugh.
No, I'm laughing just because we had a previous conversation about this.
Have you ever had the inkling to opening up a trading card game shop?
No,
Me personally,
no money.
That's where you're wrong, because I'm making money in the game, and maybe because it's not real life.
Because it's a damn sim.
Side story, I actually had a friend that opened a TCG shop back in 2008. Very small. Like you said, did not last very long. It's a rough thing. But this one, it's the typical simulator. It's made in the same engine that every other simulator game is made in. People all look the same. You see the same 5 models in the game throughout your play. But the loop is addicting. You buy licenses to sell cards. You expand your shop. And I'm on like day 21. And I'm making a profit every day. And I'm up to 3 different types of booster packs. I sell dice. I sell card boxes, other knickknacks. And the self-deprecating humor in the game is interesting because you'll see somebody walk through the door and they've got like green stink clouds coming off of them. And I'm like, oh God, they understand gamers. No, Black Chaos, they do not sell Wii in the back. And
what about dice? What
so-
about dice towers? Do you sell dices like dice? Do you sell dice towers for like Dungeons and Dragons?
I don't see Dice Towers, but that doesn't mean that they won't be released. It is an early access game, so I imagine something will happen in the future that as they expand on things.
They got to make sure you can sell
But-
all the dice accessories, little bags, to hold your dice.
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be more stuff like that because right now it's obviously my access is limited, but I can see all the different things I can buy into later. And I've got like 5 different color dice I could sell, and I think you could sell sleeves, you could sell little cards, like little stuffed animals, like mascots. And just like a real shop, people will come in, they'll buy the stuff, but then you get people who want to trade cards or sell cards, and you can undercut them. It'll tell you what the market value is, and you just have to figure out what your profit margin is to be able to sell it at a good price. So it's very interesting. I think I bought it for like $10, and it's just something that I could play with something on the background and not worry too much about what is going on as far as what's in the game, because I can focus differently. So I've been playing that a lot. It's been fun. I don't know how long a simulator game will hold my attention until I realize that I'm wasting my life just playing a simulator game as opposed to, any other game. But I guess a game's a game. Am I wrong?
Nope, not at all.
No,
game
some are
is a
better
game
than
is a
others.
game.
A game is not just a game. Some are better than others.
So it's like I said, I'm having fun with it. I'm seeing the mechanics happen, and as more updates come in the future, there will be more to do about it. I just don't want to have to start over from scratch. Hopefully that'll be something we can avoid. But that is all that we have been playing. So we are going to go and hit on some news topics. And the first one, yes, Tricky, I said news topics. Do you have your earplugs in?
What?
Nope, of course not.
What?
And as the first Sunday of the month, the first podcast of the month, we are going to be talking about the games being added to the January 2025 PlayStation Plus. And as noted in the PlayStation blog, this comes from Adam Michel. The 3 games being added are Suicide Squad for the PS5,
Thank you.
Need for Speed Hot Pursuit for the PS4, and Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe for the PS4 and PS5. So with that being said, who is excited, obviously not Alex, for Suicide Squad?
I am, because you guys can start playing with me.
I would have to have PS Plus to be able to play with you. Even then, I wouldn't play it.
I know, Chaos. It's Suicide Squad gets no love. It's a quality game.
You know what? They probably
it-
should have released it on PlayStation Plus sooner than this, because obviously now that they have announced that the 4th season, the 4th character they're adding, DLC launch is going to be the last one. I don't know. Waiting almost a year when this game didn't do, like, we can say commercially failed miserably. Seems like they could have done this 6 months ago and it would have been better for them. But
I'm hoping, and I'm really doubting that this is going to happen. I'm hoping that people start playing it on Plus, really see how that it's a quality game and that it generates some interest, and they come back to it.
I think it's a dead game at this point.
Oh, it's probably a dead game at this point, but
I mean, what you can't announce the news that they announced and say, "Hey, we're done after this one," and then expect people to get excited about it, because people are going to see that news and be like, "Game's done." And to be fair, people probably wrote the game off a long time ago.
they wrote it off when they saw the trailer and they saw the 5 different currencies and all that stuff, but that was never an issue in the game. And Chaos says in the chat, it's because DC people on that trash MCU bandwagon. No, Chaos.
No.
This was hated from the start because they wanted another game like the Arkham series, and this was going to play completely different.
I shouldn't say nobody. Most people didn't want to play as the Suicide Squad.
I don't even think that was the issue. I think it's because it played differently than the Arkham games.
Well, we can go into all. We've already talked ad nauseum about Suicide Squad, so
And
we know where everybody in the show.
Well,
because it's
real
worth
quick,
We
talking
don't
about.
need to.
before we
It's
move
a-
on, I do want to ask
It's worth
Tricky.
talking about.
Tricky,
Yes.
when do you think this game should have been added to PS Plus?
I mean, I agree with it. 6 months ago would have been probably ideal.
Okay, because
I'm
if you're looking to save the game, now is not the time because it's not. Gonna happen.
No. I'm not saying they did this to save the game. I'm saying I think enough people are going to get curious enough to try it. What I'm hoping, which I severely doubt it's going to happen, what I'm hoping is that enough people give it a try to understand that this is a quality game and it didn't deserve all the hate it got. And then
It got middling reviews. How is that a quality game?
because you can't trust fucking these game reviewers nowadays. Because I mean, look at what happened to what's the game that the developer cried because he has speech done for 2 years.
Black Myth.
Yeah, that was a quality game, but it got bad reviews.
It did not get bad reviews. The only bad reviews it got were from journalists who said it wasn't diverse enough.
Right. So, I'm getting increasingly more frustrated with people reviewing these games. I went on my little rant last week about how, Intergalactic is getting a bad rep and nobody knows shit about that game yet. You saw a trailer and all of a sudden, oh, they're too woke. This game is going to fail. This is what's going to kill Naughty Dog. Go fuck yourself. Sorry.
Anyways,
Sorry.
Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is another game.
That's
Anybody
good.
going to be playing that?
I already own it, but that's a quality game.
I don't know if I'll play it again or not. I got the plat on the 3.
So, the next game, unless Alex said he wanted to play Need for Speed, the next game, Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. This is a funny game because you are the titular Stanley and you're in an office and you have a narrator narrating the things you do. Except the narrator gets upset when you don't follow the script and will change the script based on what you do or don't do. Like he'll say, Stanley goes through the left door and you go through the right door. And he'll say, well, Stanley must be hard of hearing because he went through the right door by some mistake. And then the narrator changes things on you. The original game had a trophy or achievement where you don't play the game for 5 years.
Thought it was 10.
And the deluxe is 10. So anybody looking to get the platinum in this game, if you're just starting it now, put your timer on.
Well, I mean, there is a way around it.
On the PlayStation?
Yeah, you
Does
just
that work?
yeah, you just change the date and time.
Change the clock.
Well, y'all are fakes then.
I mean, there's people that did that for what was it? Arkham City with Calendar Man. You had to go visit him on every holiday, and people just changed it to whatever holiday was that year. So,
But that is all the games added to PS Plus for this month. So if there's anything worth knowing, it's that if you've been waiting for Suicide Squad, it is there. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit is a good racing game, and Stanley Parable is a fun little first-person walking simulator with unreliable narrator.
Chaos, if you want to play Suicide Squad, just hit me up. I'll play with you.
Sounds like a pity team up. The next two articles came from Tricky wanting to talk about the PlayStation Portal. And the first article from PlayStation Lifestyle, written by Michael Ruiz, says that the PS Portal features will be expanded gradually. Sony reiterates. So basically what they're saying is that any steps being taken to expand the Portal's capabilities, it will be incremental. It's not going to be an amazing change overnight. And they want to be extra careful in their approach because the Portal being a new type of device for Sony, which is interesting because things like the PSP or the PS Vita were able to play remotely, but there really wasn't the infrastructure behind it, or networking wasn't fast enough at the time. Now it is. So again, I admit I was a naysayer when it first came out, but Sony has made good on their promise in supporting the peripheral, which I'm very surprised about. But they want to continue expanding. So, Tricky, up first, are you happy with the support? And B, what do you think might come next?
Well, I mean, before I give my opinions, I think the next topic kind of like bleeds into my answer. So do you want to cover that first? And then, okay. I gotta get some time here. I like the fact that the features are being expanded. There are a lot of people that would say that some features should have been there at launch. I don't necessarily agree with that. Like the beta game streaming, it is it is nice. It is worth the it's working perfectly in my opinion. Should that have been there at launch? I don't know. Yield. I mean, what do you think? Should that have been there at launch, or are you okay with it coming later? I know you don't own a portal, but just overall opinion.
Okay, what are you talking about being there at launch?
The PlayStation Plus game streaming. So on your PS5, instead of downloading the game, you could just stream it from the cloud. Now you have that.
Yes, as long as you're a premium member.
Right. Now you have that same feature on the portal that streams straight to the thing.
Yes, that should have been there at launch, because that's the whole principle behind the portal, is to play games. Then why not have them in conjunction at launch instead of going, oh, we're going to add this in later because no one's buying it?
Except people bought it.
But yeah, that's the thing, is people bought it.
Oh, did a lot of people buy it when it launched?
I think I think the last time I saw it was like 3 million sales, which is impressive.
Difficult. Well, I don't think they've really reported on it, but to Black Chaos's point, it was sold out at launch, and it was sold out for months after launch.
Yeah. Now you could. There are people out there to say that there was an artificial shortage.
Well, there were scalpers that had them, but it wasn't nearly as bad as the PS5 launch.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, with a new device like the Portal, like with the PlayStation console, like the PS5, that you can pretty much throw any number out there and people will buy them. With the Portal, it's kind of hard to judge what demand is, so you may have put out less, thinking that demand wouldn't be that high, and it sold out. It's kind of, again, it's kind of hard to judge what you're going to sell on a brand new thing like the Portal.
So, I mean, the interesting thing about it was that this is what everybody said that it should have had at launch. And I think if it did, the sales would have been even better, and it would have been a longer period of time. But now that it's out and it's enough time for people to get it in their hands, and seeing proper Sony support, I think means that you're going to see that continue, and it's going to continue to be sold.
But, okay, so we're not in the Sony boardrooms or anything, but what do you guys consider it to be a success at, the number of sales? Is it 5 million? Is it 10 million? Because obviously it's not going to get anywhere close to PS5 sales. What would you guys consider a good number to say, okay, it's been successful for Sony?
Hardware is different than games, because you don't really know what the budget was to develop it. So it's very difficult to say. I could say 5 million because I know maybe that amount will effectively make it profitable for them. But I don't think there's any way of knowing. Listen, I don't think it hurts when you go, a thing has sold 5 million, but compare that to what is the PS5 up to? 60?
65, I think.
65. I mean, a 10% attachment rate to the console, essentially. If we're talking 5 million sales, I think 3 million is respectable for a unit that Sony has notoriously given up on support for items. Look at the PlayStation VR 2. You don't really hear too many games coming out for that. I think Metro Awakening was the last big name game to get released on it.
Well, this is kind of why I wanted you to link in the next topic with this because I think this kind of helps with the conversation a little bit too.
All right, so we'll go into the next topic as well, and we'll bring it all together. And this was Sony explained why the PS Portal only streams PlayStation games and doesn't natively play them. Coming from Tweaktown, Derek Strickland. It was with Hideaki Nishino, Sony's business development CEO, because they split between him and what's the other guy's name?
Herman Holst.
Herman Holst.
That they said that Sony wanted to make it easier for developers to not complicate programming by making the portable device able to play PS5 games natively. So Tricky sent this article, and I told him, I have thoughts, because the article title is presenting as one thing, and what you read was something different. And what Nishino basically was saying was they didn't want to make a handheld that played games that a developer would have to develop twice for. Everybody's heard about the issues, and it's recently been said by the Black Myth Wukong developers that the Xbox version is delayed because they have to develop for both the Series X and the Series S. Sony's saying we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to make a handheld that people would have to develop a game twice for, essentially. This has two problems, though. One, I don't know where that comment is coming from, because that makes it seem like at some point they said we should make a handheld that plays PS5 games. And
which was what killed the Vita.
Well, the Vita was for the 4, but yes.
But the Vita never was meant to play 4 games.
Yes, it was.
It had its own games.
Yes, it had its own games. The problem was, this is just a personal opinion, the problem was all the gamers out there going, I want to play my Vita games on my PS4, and I want to play my PS4 games on my Vita, and then they just turned the Vita into a glorified PlayStation 4 controller. That's what killed it. It wasn't its own individual console. You should not make games that play on both, because there's no point in having a handheld if you can play it on your home console and if you can play it on the go.
I think what really killed the Vita as far as development is the fact that they advertise it as it's PlayStation 4 games on the go, and they just never really delivered on that. I
never got that advertisement.
That was how they were billing it when it came out. It's like, you're going to be able to play your PlayStation 4 quality games on this device.
I never once heard them talk about it like that.
I guarantee you. I could do the research and look it up, but I remember it was either E3 or it was the PlayStation Experience. That's what they were advertising as.
Because the other issue with the Vita was that you had the touchpad in the back, which was not meant to mimic the DualShock 4 touchpad. It was its own button. And since the Vita only had 2 shoulder buttons, any time that there was a game that had to map the trigger buttons, it was to the touchpad in the back, and that was very poorly implemented. Look at Borderlands 2.
Yeah, and also what killed the Vita, and I really hope that if they ever decide to do another portable, is the storage device. Like, you had to buy Sony storage devices. You couldn't just buy a normal, mini disc.
Proprietary memory has never worked out for a late stage console.
It's funny that you all have mentioned 3 things that killed the Vita, and you didn't mention the main thing that killed the Vita, which was lack of Sony support. Like, Sony didn't put out enough games for it.
Well, I mean, that is true. But that's kind of that's why I wanted Matt to incorporate the second article in here. It's saying that Sony wanted to make it easier for developers to not complicate programming. What, Yield?
This is so funny.
What?
Because it goes to what Matt said. At some point, there had to have been a discussion. We want PlayStation 5 games to be able to be played on the portal.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, well, we don't want to complicate development, so we won't have it play games. So at some point, they were going to do the same damn thing that they did for the Vita, which was not make games specifically for their handheld. We'll just make our console games, and you can play them on the Vita. or play them on the Portal, which is a Switch PlayStation. Then don't even have a console.
So this is where I talk about when they're developing this handheld. Where the article lost me was they're saying that they didn't want it to natively play. It was never designed to natively play anything. It was all meant to be streaming. So the issue I have is, why was the PS5 game streaming not available at launch?
Because I don't think that infrastructure was set up properly yet.
When did they start streaming PS5 games to the PlayStation 5?
It was a couple months after launch, I believe. But think about it, like right now, you could do remote play on your phone to your PlayStation 5, and you can't stream the games.
It was October 2023.
Oh, so that was 3 years after launch?
PS5 streaming for PlayStation Plus Premium members launches starting today in Japan, Europe, and North America to follow. So October 2023, they had streaming to the PS5. You're telling me they couldn't figure out how to do that for the Portal, which was getting ready to release in a couple months from that point?
I'm sure that. See, I hate answering stuff like this because it makes me sound like the Sony apologist. I'm in agreement with you that these things should have launched together. But if it took that long for Sony to figure out how to do cloud service to the PlayStation 5, there's got to be something that the Portal was some kind of hindrance to that same project, because they're not the same thing.
Probably operating system, to be honest, because it's running its own operating system. It's not running the PlayStation 5 UI.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing that Sony shot themselves in the foot, because now we're getting all these PS1 and PS2 games on Plus, but you still can't download a PS3 to the 5. You still have to stream it. So there's got to be something with the infrastructure. Should have been there at launch.
But
I can
the
understand
infrastructure was already there. The infrastructure was already there. They were streaming to PS5s.
But that doesn't...
For them to take as long as they did to get it to the Portal is vexing to me.
I see what you're saying, Matt, but it's not the same. Because I have a feeling what they were originally going to try to do was let you take the Portal straight to the PS5 and then let your PlayStation 5 stream the game from the cloud. And that would just been too much on the network to try to take care of.
Well, it would have introduced too much lag.
Right.
The stream to the PS5 and then the stream to the Portal.
Right. So they found an infrastructure to bring it to the Portal. I'm with Yield on the fact that it should have been there at launch, but I can understand why it wasn't there at launch. I mean, we'll never know the answers to this. We'll never have the backstory of all the infrastructure and stuff like that. But I don't know. I like the idea that there's more features coming to it. I wish they would change their Bluetooth technology so I can use any Bluetooth headset on it, but that's neither here nor there.
No, that is actually a very good upgrade that is very much needed, because having to buy, again, going back to the storage, the proprietary storage bullshit, Sony forcing you to have to buy a proprietary headset, and not a cheap one either, to listen to it wirelessly. Because yes, you can still use any wired headset, which are quickly going the way of the dinosaur. I'm surprised this thing has a hardwire audio port to begin with.
Is it $100 or $200 for the headsets? For the I think it's $200. I think it's $199. Alex, what are your thoughts on all this?
I feel like this device is sold to, like, part of the reason that people wanted to buy it was because, hey, if I don't have access to the TV in my home, if I have a significant other that wants to share it or I have kids that want to watch it, I can play my games on the portal. And so the fact that from day one you couldn't crack open a portal and stream all these games, stream your entire library to it is kind of crazy. Like, that's what it's sold on, is being able to, because again, you can't buy games for it. You're reliant upon what you bought on your PlayStation account for the PS5. So the fact that now, a year later, it's I don't know. I feel like you should have been able to stream any one of your games you wanted to play at launch.
The Pulse earbuds are $200.
Yeah, Chaos said that in the chat.
Thank you, Chaos. It's damn near a ripoff that you have to spend $400 to get a truly wireless portable experience.
Okay, and see, now this is where it's going to make me sound like the Sony apologist. It is worth noting that the earbuds, they do work on your cell phone and other devices, but for some reason they are the only earbuds that will actually work with the portal.
Yeah, but I've gotten so many free earbuds from different phone orders. I've had three different wireless ones.
Again, I'm just saying it's not like you're paying $200 and it can only be used on the portal. It can be used on other devices.
The issue I take there is, again, $200 for wireless earbuds that, they're not doing anything special. I think they talk about some proprietary special stuff that they do on there.
Right.
It just doesn't make any sense to me, because if you can still plug a regular earbuds in hardwire, that means you can accept that you're not getting some high quality audio. So open it up, Sony.
I don't know. Maybe the fact that they make you do that, make you pay for those headphones because they can't make any more money off the portal. You can't buy games for it. It's basically a one-time purchase. So they got to find ways to get more money out of you through the portal.
So let me ask. I'll ask you guys this: what if next year they do offer a way for you to buy portal-only games? Would that entice you guys in any way, shape, or form to even consider buying one of these?
No, because I do not want to play a handheld device. I have a phone. I don't want to play a handheld video game device. I play video games at home. I don't want to do that on the go. Like, it would just eat up too much of my time.
That's where I disagree with Alex.
Because Alex, you just fell into the trap. I said, but you have a Switch. You only play the Switch in.
But the Switch can be played.
I don't take the Switch anywhere. It stays at home.
But do you play only in dock mode?
Alex is in the minority of only playing it in dock mode. And that's fine.
I have played.
Because the system's meant for that.
There have been times when I played it not docked, but more often than not, it's docked.
Yield, does it open it up for you?
No.
And this is why it will never happen, because
there's no memory.
Portal only has 6 gigs of memory of storage on the device. You will never get a PS5 quality game on there. I don't think you're going to get a PS2 quality game. I don't think you're going to get a PS1 quality game on that.
I didn't go into detail, but I was basically implying like they release a new model in which they are portal only games, which does have a storage.
You're going to be paying $400 for a portal, and that will not sell.
Or you're going to be paying extra for proprietary storage you can attach to the portal. Be like, hey, you want to expand your storage? You'll pay for it.
And they've already said that they don't want to do that. They don't want to split developers, so you're not going to see that.
I mean, I think it's a hard sell, 100%. But hold on, I'm missing some comments with Chaos. Can you catch up, Matt? I'm sorry.
It's just that he said he just get a $5.99 Skull Candy earbuds from the dollar store and he's good. And that handhelds do take a lot of stress off your mobile phone. So if you do want a game on the go, I'm not saying strictly for Alex, but if you want a game on the go and you don't want to be yanking the phone out every time and then having to worry about battery and controllers and things like that, having a handheld is good. I do it all the time with the Switch. I do it all the time with the Steam Deck.
Yeah, but then it's another thing you got to carry around.
Agreed. Yes, and it should be noted that the Switch itself is good from a pocket perspective, and this is actually something that a lot of people are complaining about with the potential spec leaks for the Switch 2, is that it's not so much a pocket device anymore. People are actually going to be upset about that if it's a little too large for the pocket.
Well, I don't have, my pockets aren't big enough to carry around a Switch. I would have to have a bag to carry around my Switch or a carry
Mine are.
case.
I generally wear, and I know this is a me problem, I generally wear cargos. And the cargos have a pocket that's big enough for the Switch.
Yeah, but it's not halfway hanging out.
No, because it's got a Velcro strap that I put over.
It's some big ass pockets. But
All right, getting back to the Portal. I think the Portal was always going to be a hard sell, 100%. And as much as you guys, didn't believe me, I had zero intention of buying the Portal until I had to come into my current situation, and there's only one house in which I can play.
Your house is only one house?
There's only one TV in this house that I could play the PlayStation on. And currently, right now, because I used to have the 4 monitors, now I'm down to just one monitor. The PlayStation is currently in the office with me, and it's only attached to my computer. It's not attached to the monitor because I can't do both at the same time, even though I have picture-in-picture mode. I don't know what the hell's going on. So it's very hard for me to play PlayStation and to stream the PlayStation because now I have to play the PlayStation through XSplit. And that's where I'm getting... But when I do that, I don't have any sound. I don't have any... if I put a headset on, it takes the sound away from the stream. If I don't put a headset on, the stream gets the sound, but I still don't get no sound. So so if I'm playing with the Portal, I can stream it through a remote play, and I'm playing literally in front of my computer, and I'm able to stream the PlayStation 5, and I'm able to get sound. So the Portal is very for unique situations.
Yes, I was going to say, Tricky, you are in a very unique situation.
Right. I don't deny that one bit. And I even said when the Portal was announced, it's like, I have no need for a Portal at that time because I could literally walk into any room in my house and there'd be a PlayStation 5 for me to play. I don't have to worry about, if Sweet Mama D's on the TV
If
or
your
the guys is on the
network can hold
TV. Well, yes, but I'm also dealing with Matt, you're gonna feel the pain of this. I went from gig internet down to 300 megabyte internet, so I'm kind of hurting a little bit.
That is a significant downgrade.
So it is, yeah, chaos. It's one monitor, but yeah, it is. It was always gonna be a hard sell. I had no intention of buying it, and now I have it, and it's working out for me. But I understand why Yield or Alex or Matt, you guys have no intention of buying one, don't ever need one. But, if the situation presents itself, it is very useful and very handy.
Yeah, and for its use case, it does it well, except in the case of Kalai, where she's constantly having lag issues, and we can't figure it out. We think it's her router. Her router, I just think, doesn't like it.
Is the 5 hardwired?
Yes and no. The problem is they use a specific mesh network.
Okay.
And it's hardwired to the actual to like a beacon in that house.
Right.
Which then goes wirelessly over to the main beacon.
Can you hardwire straight to the router? Give it a try.
There would be no TV there, but that's certainly the next step.
Well, I'm just saying, just as a test to see if that's a problem, put it in there, and then whether that's the mesh network or not.
Yeah, that's the next step to try.
Will does say the streaming to the Portal was an afterthought. Be happy they busted it out at all.
Yep.
I'm kind of intrigued, and I don't know exactly what they could do, but I'm kind of intrigued to see what else they come out with for the Portal.
Well, there's people already out there hacking it to run. I think it was Vita games or something else.
I think Google did that on like the first week of launch, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot you could do. And if they have, them being Sony, they own it. They own the code. They own the programming. Maybe they can do something that would surprise us.
All right. Well,
Well,
thank you guys for going down this rabbit hole with me.
and it was a deep, dark rabbit hole.
The best
But
ones are.
you know what eats rabbits? Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was successful enough that Disney reportedly picked up the phone and wants more, coming from Games Radar, Con Cernan.
Now, that was a good
There's
segue,
nothing-
Matt. Sorry. That was a good segue.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Tricky. There's nothing officially in development, but it's been heard that Disney might want more indie. Lucasfilm's VP and General Manager Douglas Riley has said, always looking for great stories, and the good news is there's a lot of space in between the films where we could tell more and more Indiana Jones stories, and I think that would be super interesting. I dare to say, I think Xbox has a hit on their hands. I don't know how long it's going to last, but people seem to like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. And soon enough, Sony fans will get their hands on it as well.
That is important to note that these sales are only based on the PC and the Xbox, because it hasn't come to PlayStation yet.
Correct. And from what they said is that the sales are good, not even counting what's been driven by Game Pass. So Black House says took them long enough to get a hit. Yep. Yeah, definitely. But they needed a win in their back pocket. So I don't know. Kalai and I had the conversation. She's like, "Are you going to get it?" I go, "No, because I don't need to play Indiana Jones." She goes, "Why not?" I go, "I wasn't a huge indie fan. Like, I'll watch a movie, but another podcast I listen to talks about the remote test, where if a movie comes on and you have the remote in your hand, you drop it and you say, yep, that's what I'm doing for the rest of the time that the movie's on. Indiana Jones isn't that for me. If it's on the TV, I'm going to see what else is on. I'm not trying to go and play an Indiana Jones game. But I don't know. Do either of you feel different?
I would be a lot more excited if Uncharted hadn't happened. And I know it's been a while since Uncharted 4, but not saying I'm not going to pick up the Great Circle when it comes to PlayStation, but having played Uncharted, certainly, I don't know. I feel like that type of game, the adventure, the 3D, the third person action adventure game, like, I don't know. Do I need to play another one? And am I going to spend my time comparing it to Uncharted? Because as crazy as it sounds, because we know Uncharted, takes from Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, takes from Indiana Jones, to be like, oh, I don't need to play this indie game because I played Uncharted. It's kind of crazy, but the characters and the story and the locations are strong enough where I don't necessarily need to play another game of that type. I don't know. I feel like any game I play like that's just going to be compared to Uncharted, and I'm going to be like, well, it's not as good as on Uncharted. So, comparison is the thief of joy. But, yeah, I mean, I might possibly give it a shot. I did like the Indiana Jones movies. I watched, I haven't seen the latest one, but I've seen the, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and before, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. So I've seen 4 of the 5 movies. But I'm glad to hear it's doing well, and that, they were able to portray Indiana Jones, visually and in the voice properly and to people's liking, because that's obviously a sticky situation if you get someone in there to play a much beloved character like Indy and, from a Hollywood star back in it like Harrison Ford. If you don't nail that, it can take you completely out of the world. So I might, whenever it comes back to PlayStation, I might give it a chance. I just kind of am concerned that I'll play it and I'll be like, well, it's not as good as Naughty Dog's Uncharted, and it kind of, in a way, hold back my enjoyment of the game. But at the same time, it seems like it's doing really well. So who knows? Maybe I won't be concerned. Maybe it'll be so different that I won't feel I need to compare them.
Yield, how do you feel about the Indy and Nathan Drake comparison?
It's no different than, I feel it's no different than Uncharted being compared to Tomb Raider. So I'll play it. I like Indiana Jones. I think before I think before they get on this whole Indiana Jones kick that they should probably pump the brakes, but there's a lot of people that loved Uncharted, and so at least from the Sony aspect or those that own both consoles, they'll flock to an adventure game like that. Ultimately, if the story's good, it'll sell, but I don't know. I'm reserving judgment until I play it to see how much I love it. But
And I do want to say one positive. Sorry, Yield, to cut
No,
you
you're
off there,
fine.
but I do think one positive of this, and I think that Yield will also agree with this, is that the last two Indiana Jones movies have not been received
Were not
very
great.
well.
no.
And I think when it comes to this character, especially again having Harrison Ford, like having a character, having the Harrison Ford feature, not Harrison Ford, but Indiana Jones featured, and he looks like Harrison Ford, is a great thing for the IP because you have three good movies, or three movies that people really like, and then two stinkers, and those two stinkers have been the only movies that have come out in the last 30 years for Indiana Jones. And so this coming out and being very positive and people liking it, I don't know, after the last two movies left sour taste in a lot of people's mouths and people outright not liking them, having this game come out and be a hit and be kind of, in a way, another Indiana Jones movie, and still, I think that ending the series right now, if it ended it right here, having a positive note to end on would be very good for Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and again, from an aspect that I'm not an Indiana Jones fan, but I don't want to see such a beloved franchise fail. And seeing what happened with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and hearing what happened there, though, I think some of that might have been attributed to Shia LaBeouf compared to anything else. But I don't know. I heard Aliens, Alex.
Yeah, they're aliens. But also, wasn't the Dial of Destiny wasn't that liked even less than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
I heard people enjoyed Dial.
It was better than Crystal Skull, but it wasn't better by a lot.
Okay.
Like, it was okay. It was... They should have ended with The Last Crusade. That was the best.
Because it was called The Last Crusade.
Well, I mean, that was the last movie to come out. I always fuck this up, but was Temple of Doom not the last released?
No, Last Crusade.
Okay, that's something I always fuck up.
It was Raiders, and then Temple of Doom was technically a prequel, and then it was Last Crusade.
For some reason, it's always stuck in my mind that I think Temple of Doom was the last one I watched. So in my head, always Temple of the Doom was the last released theatrically. But like I said, I always fuck that up. But
I don't. Temple of the Doom was the first one I ever saw, and therefore,
I'm glad you went to the second one because of those three, that's the weaker of the three, in my opinion.
See, but I look at it and I go, that was the one I enjoyed the most.
Because that was the first one you saw.
Maybe it was the monkey brains.
No, I think it was the alligators.
I don't know. Chilled monkey brains seemed very interesting at the time.
The chilled monkey brains was always nice.
I will say that I think for me, Temple of Doom has the most enjoyable 30 minutes, like opening 30 minutes of any of those movies, while Last Crusade has the best last 30 minutes. Well, I mean, Raiders is a very close because the last scene in Raiders is really good, but I think the Temple of Doom, or the Last Crusade and finding the Carpenter's Cup, like that to me is the best last 30 minutes of the series.
And I think there's validity to say that each movie has its high points and each movie has its low points. Like, I didn't like any of the scenes where I see Indy schmoozing the bourgeoisie or the higher echelon of whatever societies he was trying to impress.
Well, Matt, you just brought up the monkey brains.
That's where those movies slow down.
That's exactly one of those moments. You just brought up the monkey brains.
Yeah, well, I said that, but I didn't mean it. It was really, Kali Ma and ripping hearts out that was entertaining to me.
Hold on. So the most entertaining part of Temple of Doom was not feeding all those bad guys the crocodiles off the bridges?
Well, yeah, part of that, but I enjoyed the Kano executions, we'll call it.
Those were kind of
finish him.
Pulling the heart out.
Will says the dinner scene in Temple of Doom is the reason he won't eat Indian food to this day.
I can't say as I blame you.
Hey man, they weren't serving any chicken tikka masala there on that table. You can feel safe having, unless you don't like spicy food. You can and some naan, get you some garlic naan. Come on.
Well, wasn't it the ones this is again how many years I have seen it. Did they cut like a python open and there were baby pythons that they ate?
That happened.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, that's why when I look at Indiana Jones, I go, okay, the lack of a better term, swashbuckling adventures of Indy. It has exciting action pieces, action sets, and entertainment value. Everybody loves him shooting the sword guy because that's the damn thing that everybody quotes these days. But
which was funny, that wasn't originally scripted.
Yeah, and that's the common knowledge about it, was that there was issues with production that day, and it was like, well, let's just do this, and they did it, and that's what got put in.
It ended up being kind of a great moment.
Now, that being said, when I go to Disney World, I will go to the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular thing, which is like kind of like a best of all those movies. That's entertaining to watch, but I like the live action choreography.
Hopefully they have, because in top of fatalities, Indiana Jones also has the stage executions, because clearly we all remember that guy getting into the plane propeller, getting chopped up by the plane propeller.
That was great. He was getting his butt kicked.
Stage finisher.
Yeah, the other thing that got me about the series is that they had to go back and be like, well, Harrison Ford has a scar on his chin. We have to go back and explain that. No, you didn't. Nobody was wondering why Indy had a scar on his chin.
I didn't until they made it a point to point it out.
Yeah. I for the longest time watching Star Wars, never saw it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm done stalling for time because Tricky had stepped away for a little bit, so we will continue on and he can rejoin us when it's time. This is normally the time where we'd go to listener questions. However, this week we do not have any listener questions. And just as Tricky is getting back, maybe we will circle back and see what he thinks about Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody stare at Tricky while he puts his earbuds in.
It better be good. We waited all this time. Tricky, all these times when Tricky takes time to step away from the mic, he's gonna be real glad that I got a lot of hot air in these lungs and I can talk a lot of bullshit about games.
That's why I stepped away, so I know you're spewing some bullshit.
That's the one fucking time he's not gonna complain about.
That's how we want to. Okay, well then we won't go to Tricky's opinion on Indiana Jones.
Tricky, Xbox has got a hit on their hands with Indiana Jones and the Great Circle.
I'm very happy for them, but I will not be playing it.
What's your problem with it? You don't like snakes? Because I do see that there's a snake boss fight in it.
Well, one, Kaliri warned me and told me there's a bunch of spiders. And two,
Indiana Jones game, yeah.
And two, it's first person, so I won't be playing it.
Good contribution. Listener questions. Guess what? There's no listener questions this week.
Time to check my social media.
Straight into the topic of the week, and this week's topic, and I got to thinking, what are your thoughts on walkthroughs? Are they good? Are they bad? Are there times that they're good and needed? Other times that they aren't needed? Do you remember your first walkthrough guide? I can see how they're useful for trophy hunting to help you get to everything you need. So, and then the only other thing is there seems to be a perception of people who use walkthroughs versus those that don't. It's kind of like that Dark Souls theory. If you could beat Dark Souls before they down patch a boss, that you have earned this right. So I don't know. Alex, do you use walkthroughs for anything?
I mean, occasionally. If I'm, a big thing is collectibles. Like, I would think that everybody is going to miss a collectible here and there. And I've gone through games multiple times, replayed chapters, scoured everything, and just for some reason, I couldn't think outside enough the box to find this one last collectible. I was going through Slide 2 recently, and I found every last bottle, without any help until I got to the final chapter, Chapter 8, or Episode 8, and I had to have help finding the last 3. So, I mean, there's nothing wrong with using a guide. I mean, imagine, like, not having walkthroughs. Like, I'm more a fan of the video walkthroughs because a lot of times, like, we used to only have to rely on game facts and stuff like that, and you would have like a text walkthrough, but sometimes like it's not always easy to use those. So like having like a video to walk you through is much nicer and more clear. I don't like using that stuff right off the cut. I prefer to play a game first, and then if I need help going through again. But again, there's times when we've all gotten stuck in games and it's like, okay, I don't know how to progress. I need a little extra help. And I think that's where walkthroughs really are necessary. If you don't want to use them, you don't have to. They're completely optional, but sometimes they can really help people get over the hump when you just can't figure out something. So I've always used walkthroughs as long as I can remember. I don't see any shame in using them, because what would you rather do, just be stuck in a game forever? Tricky, since obviously you were exhaling there, you had something to say?
I was gonna say a hot take that nobody's gonna believe when I say it. IGN makes the worst walkthroughs.
No, I agree with that.
Why did you think that's a hot take?
Because I figured you guys were going to go, oh my God, Tricky's actually talking shit about IGN.
No.
No.
You got to throw people off the scent that you're getting paid by IGN to use their
articles. No, like, I have no problem with walkthroughs, but I agree with Alex on the fact that video walkthroughs, because I was using a walkthrough to try to find all the pigments in the Frozen Wilds, and they provided no pictures, no video, nothing, and it was just typed out how to find it, and it was like so bad to try to follow that. It's like, oh, go to this fireplace and walk north, but go northeast for half a mile, and I'm like, there's no definition of miles in the game. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I personally, I have no problem using walkthroughs, but I try not to use a walkthrough unless it's a game that doesn't have an in-game checker. And what I mean by, like, Alex will probably know this with Sly, is the fact that, like, you got to collect 30 bottles, but you have 29. So you're missing one bottle in this area, where there's some games it's like, oh, there's 100 collectibles, but it doesn't tell you which area that collectible's in. So, like, that at that point, I go, okay, I'm going to a walkthrough to find out where this one collectible is missing. Will says if there's a shortcut, a trophy hunter will take it. Yeah. But yeah, I have no problem with walkthroughs. I think they're very useful. And before we let Yield go, I just want to give a shout out to the best trophy walkthroughs that I feel right now is Power PYX.
Okay. Yeah. Well, okay. So, Tricky, do you remember the first walkthrough you ever used?
I believe it was for Uncharted Drake's Fortune.
Really, that late in the game?
Yeah, I before trophies, I really wasn't a real big completionist.
Okay. Yield, you remember the first one you used? Do you use them?
Probably something from Nintendo Power. More than likely, probably Super Mario 3. You know, how to get all the warp whistles, or something like that. May have been one of the first kind of a walkthrough that I used. I primarily don't use a walkthrough until I'm like going for the platinum. Then I will be like, all right, I've missed these trophies. Are there like any hidden trophies? Is there something specific I need to do? Then I'll go to a walkthrough and be like, okay, this is how I do it. You know, if it's a game that I'm like trying to minimize my playthroughs after I first played it and, have rolled credits. If I'm not like, I really enjoyed this, I have to play it on a harder difficulty, I might pull up a guide and be like, all right, let's, minimize the amount of playthroughs. But I save those until, like I said, until after I've played through the game at least once.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. Is to just to tack on this. Like, does anybody use a walkthrough on their first playthrough, or they want to complete the game before they do that?
I like to complete the game. I feel it ruins the game if you know what's coming.
So, and before I go to Alex, I'll just say this: is last week I talked about completing Silent Hill 2, and initially I was going through the game and I wasn't using a guide. I get to a point where I just want to complete a game and get it off my log, and the quickest way to do that is just to follow a guide. And I'm still doing the things. I'm just following the direction that it's telling me. And sometimes I'll go off and I'll do my own exploring, and then I'll go back to the guide and finish it. But Alex, do you what about you? Do you use a guide first time through? Do you try to avoid that before resorting to it?
I only use a guide on if it's a last resort. If I'm sitting there and I can't figure this thing out, games, to be fair, despite all the years they've had to hone the skill at making games, aren't always the best at letting you know what you have to do. I mean, like Sly 3 does a really good job of letting, like, they set markers. Like, if you double click the L3 button, it'll show you where your objective is. It'll mark you on the screen with a big old blue, pink, or green marker, like, hey, this is where your objective is. So some games do it really well. But sometimes in games become massive, and it's not always easy to tell what you have to do, where you need to go. So if I need to use a guide on my first playthrough, I'm fine. But it's usually just for one single part to get me over a hump. But in general, my best case scenario, I avoid it until my second playthrough. Because a lot of times I only want to use a guide to help me with collectibles. That's for the 100% completion. That's really all I use them for. But again, they do have uses if you're stuck in a game, because no one wants to... I would rather play a game, use a guide if I need to momentarily, than stop playing the game and never play it again or never finish it just because of one moment. We all get stuck in a game every once in a while. We all need a little extra help. I don't think there's any shame in turning to a guide because of that.
Well, I mean, we're all talking about guides as far as collectibles, but does anybody use a guide on like a strategy to beat a difficult boss? Anybody go to YouTube and say, okay, this is how I need to beat this boss. This is the strategy I need.
If I have beaten my head against the wall and have tried everything that I can possibly think of to beat that boss, and I still can't come close, then yes, I've thrown in the towel. It's time to look at it.
I actually have a recent example of this I can share. So it wasn't too long ago. I'm sure you all remember me talking about Raji in Ancient Epic. Well, the first boss in that, the Guardian, I had the most difficult time with this motherfucker. I probably died 10 or so times to this guy. And it was weird because when I looked up how to beat him, because I thought I was doing something wrong, during the last section of the boss fight, once you get his health down enough, he has these two kind of like lanterns that'll spin around him that kind of create like this almost like protective barrier. And I've seen people online, like I watched videos where people were shooting their bows and arrows through that barrier, where they were actually able to lob it up over. And I tried that. It never worked. And I saw comments like, how are you doing this? I can't do this. Now, eventually what I had to do, I figured out my own way to beat him. And that's I had to duck underneath the spinning objects, hit him a few times, and then dodge back out, because he would, do some kind of close range attack that would hit me if I stayed in between his spinning objects. But I mean, I used a guide there because I couldn't figure it out, or I thought I was doing something wrong because it was so difficult for me. But in the end, I had to find my own workaround because what I saw online wasn't working either. I literally could not shoot through the barrier he was creating.
Yeah, I've gone on YouTube to look up like when you're fighting a boss and they're just not taking any damage because you're not using the certain strat or the certain weapon or something like that. I've had to go to YouTube a couple times. Like, what am I supposed to be shooting this guy with? Because I'm doing 0 damage whatsoever.
And when fighting a boss, you have limited options, so it's on the developers to not make it like brain dead idiot proof, but they should make it to a point where you've exhausted your options, and in all of that time you found one thing that will work. You shouldn't have to really go to a guide. In some ways that can be seen as like bad game design.
I did it with Armored Core 6. You know, there was like the first wall boss that's like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm trying my own things. Like Yield said, I'm beating my head against a wall, trying various different combinations, weapon types. And then somebody in a thing said, oh no, you just got to use these. Do that and it's easy mode. It certainly wasn't easy mode once I started following what they were saying, but it made it doable. And then it became, okay, I have this. It's not necessarily a loadout issue. It's now a skill issue, and I got to get better at that. So I'll definitely look up guides. And this is where I talk about, you know, going back to the early days of Pokemon. People complain about Pokemon being way too easy these days. Pokemon was probably one of the first games I used a guide for. Other than, you know, Final Fantasy VII back in the day, printing out the guide for my friend so that way he can get the golden chocobo. But Pokemon like the Red and Blue were vicious as it goes towards some of the strategies and things you had to do to get some of the items in that game. And yes, we would never have survived in the 90s, except most of us grew up in the 90s, so I don't know what that's supposed to mean. It was definitely something that we needed to sometimes people need help with something. Playing Descent 1, Descent 2, you know, before I can even play the game, I had the Descent 2 guide, so I could read up on all the bots and the best strategies for them and playing it, and what weapons to use and how to avoid them and their weak spots. So, you know, I think guides have a valuable place, and I kind of miss the days of having like a bookshelf of all the guides that we have. Now that everything's online, I kind of miss having the physical guides there representing parts of our gaming history.
And being able to open them up and seeing all the pictures and everything. And yeah, no, especially the ones for Zelda games, those were always my favorite. But I think it is important to say that while guides do have an important place within how we play games, it can also be robbing your video game experience if you lean on them too much. Like if you're just doing it for every game to get through them. Like I've never understood the trophy hunters who want to get through a game as fast as possible to get all the trophies and the platinum as quickly as they can. Because why even play games at that point? You're just you're in it for the trophies, but you're not really enjoying the game or conquering the game. You're just speedrunning through it. So I think that leaning too heavily on them can rob you of your experience.
To be fair, a lot of the games like I play, I don't care about the game at all. I'm just trying to get the platinum as quick as possible.
Yeah, but most of those games are like press X a million times.
No, I mean there's a what was the game? Daggerhood was a quality game, but yeah, I just wanted to get the trophies. But just to expand on this, just a hair. How do you guys feel about using glitches in games? And I'm not talking about like cheating. I'm talking like a legitimate glitch, because I just found this out, and maybe Matt, you know about this already. There's apparently a glitch in A Link to the Past in which you can go from the start to Ganon and beat the game within like 2.5 minutes.
But why would you want to do that? Like, why?
Well, I'm not saying.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about this, because this is actually very apt. Because I just opened the show talking about games done quick and speed running, and having a world record for beating a game. But again, there's rules with that. You don't just do this. You don't just go punch in a code and be like, all right, I got to the end credits, I beat the game. There's categories, there's rules about it.
Right.
What you can or can't do, things you can or can't use. You know, some categories allows you to use computer assisted technology assisted speedruns, TASBots. Others say, nope, you can't do this. Other runs say you can't glitch. Others say you can't go out of bounds, with out of bounds being anything through a, outside the known map, but you could technically glitch inside the map. I'm okay with all that. Listen, I've tried back in Destiny 1, I was not above trying to glitch the final boss of the raid. We just never got it to work. So it depends. I think for the most part, what I'm against is outright hacking or modding games. I'll play games with my friends, and then it gets to the point where like they mod drop rates or crafting and things like that. And like, if it's not built into the game, it kind of kills some of my enjoyment. Not always, but mostly. And when you consider that versus something like walkthroughs, to your point, Tricky, and I know I rib you about it all the time, where you programmed it in your controller, it's still something you have to do. You
Right.
can follow the guide, you could read what to do, but you still have to do the thing. And to me, that doesn't make you any less of a gamer. It just means maybe you want to expedite the game. And to kind of go against what Alex said, if I'm playing a game and I just feel like I want to expedite it to enjoy it, I kind of see that as being able to put the game on easy mode, which some games allow you to do naturally, and allow you to just play the game and enjoy the story. So I think it depends on the type of game.
See, because I was just watching a video by Gamer Ranks, and they were talking about the top 20 glitches in the game that were quickly patched out. And one of the things I'm leading into, I mean, I don't consider it a glitch myself, but it was cheating the system, is in The Witcher 3. Apparently there was a early in the game, there was cows you could kill, and then you could trade in the meat for money, and the cows infinitely spawned, and people were breaking the economy that way. And the way they've patched it was, after you killed enough cows, they would send a humongous cow that was unbeatable to come kill you, to stop you from doing it. So like, but just in general, it's like, if you find a way to get to something quicker or beat a boss quicker by using a certain glitch, or stand in some, like in the Division, like if I was to stand in a place that I can't be hit, and all I'm doing is taking pot shots at somebody, like, how do you feel about stuff like that?
Well, then that gets into the definition of something like exploit versus a glitch. Exploit is you're not outright breaking the system. You're just using an in-game mechanic to further your experience or further your game. A glitch is, taking code and doing something like back in Pokemon, transferring something to your PC and then turning it off mid-save to duplicate your item because it was being stored locally in your inventory as well as your PC. That was a glitch. That wasn't an exploit.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it goes back to the idea of whatever you're comfortable with, be it an exploit, be it a glitch, be it a walkthrough, whatever helps you enjoy that game, I'd say go for it.
Yield, what do you think?
Of what? You've been going everywhere.
No, I mean, if there's an in-game glitch and you're not using a third-party software or something like that, a glitch within the game that makes it either easier or breaks the economy, do you have any problem using that stuff, or do you like, no, I don't do this because it's unfair to the game?
No. If it's built into the game, whether intentionally or unintentionally and found, then you're not breaking the game because it's in the game. Like killing the cows to get a bunch of money. Somebody figured that out. Now the thing is, though, now with the internet, when one person figures it out, it spreads like wildfire. Whereas before, back in the day, it would take months, if not years, for that to make the rounds for everybody to know. So, no, I don't have a problem with it. Now, if you're intentionally breaking the game, then yeah, that's not cool, man.
Okay. Alex, your thoughts?
If it's built into the game, if it's something everybody can access and everybody can do, and you're not messing with the game in any way, like you're not changing anything about the game, and yeah, it just comes as part of the code and you have access to it because of that, I don't have an issue with it.
Okay.
Well, we are coming up on the hour mark, or the second hour mark, however you want to look at it. So with that said, we will move on to closing out the show. Yield your shout out, sir.
Give a shout out to Matt, Tricky, and Alex for recording this evening. And shout out to everybody who was hanging out in chat. Shout out to Homer for playing some Squadrons and Battlefront 2 with me. Shout out to all the Pimps and the Madams of the Whoredom. Thank you for being who you are. And that'll do it this week.
All right, Alex.
Shout out to our awesome community, the fuel to the fire of this trophy horse. Thank you all very much for continuing to support us. We got a new year and a whole lot of bullshit coming this way, but we're glad that you all are here for the ride. Shout out to my co-host Matt, Tricky, and Yield. And last but not least, give a shout out to my awesome and loving girlfriend Ashley. I love you, hun. And yeah, that is going to be the end of my shout outs.
Ricky.
Sorry, I just read a post. Somebody said, "Who the fuck is keeping Twizzlers in business?" So you like chewing cherry HDMI cords? Sorry, made me laugh.
Or anise cords, because black licorice.
Who the fuck eats black licorice?
I like black licorice. I'm not saying I eat it all the time, but I'll eat it. If someone's like, "Hey, Alex, you want some black licorice?" I'll be like, "Sure."
You're weird.
True.
Shout out to everybody. Shout out to the listeners. Shout out to my stepdad. Shout out to the goddess. Shout out to Sweet Mama D. Shout out to you guys. Neptune Princess. I'm not reading your comment. Yeah. Matt?
Shout out to all you folks who are in chat tonight. Neptune, Will, Sean, Chaos, Dupes, and even Tricky. Tricky was in chat too. Shout out to you gents for recording tonight. Thank you for the fun discussion on walkthroughs. Shout out to the Channel 3 community. Season 11 just started, and the news is it's now actually season infinity. There will be no more seasons, and therefore it's just a continuous XP fest. So come on by to channel3.gg to gamify your social media. Also, special shout out to all the speedrunners at Awesome Games Done Quick 2025, raising money for the Prevent Cancer Foundation. Go to twitch.tv/gamesdonequick to watch some fun speedruns. There is going to be a Breath of the Wild 2 players, 1 controller speedrun later this week, which will be fun. And a special shout out to notorious Channel 3 crew member Basic, who will be doing a Mario Kart 8 speedrun with some commentators on the couch. So that'll be fun as well.
How the hell do you speedrun Mario Kart 8?
You do all the cups in a row, and you do it in the fastest time possible.
Okay, fair enough.
It's a racing game, so therefore you can speedrun it. And finally, shout out to, not finally, I keep forgetting this. Will, thank you for all your contributions, especially for the thumbnails and other things you do for the show. And then shout out to my wife, V. Thank you for everything you do on and off the show. And if there's nothing else, Tricky.
Happy trophy hunting.
Later.
Yeah.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.